piece in the New York Post. This is Douglas Murray's opinion piece in the New York Post that was published on November 3rd. And I, for one, thought that this was excellent. This kind of breaks down how Tucker Carlson really no longer has any place in the conservative movement. So, headline here: Conspiracy kook Tucker Carlson is no conservative and no friend to Charles Kirk and JD Vance. Reading from the top, Tucker Carlson is not a good friend. Just a few years ago, when the podcaster was pretending to be friends with President Trump, Carlson was caught privately saying of Trump, "I hate him passionately." In September, another person whom Carlson claimed to be friends with Charlie Kirk was shot dead. Carlson used the aftermath of his friend's assassination not to demand that the suspect in the shooting be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. He didn't seize the moment to insist that perhaps the radical left dialed down its hateful rhetoric against conservatives and Republicans. Nor did he keep attention focused on the trans extremist links of the alleged shooter. No, Carlson chose to use the occasion to deflect attention from the perpetrator seized by the FBI and return it to his obsession, the Jews. In the wake of the assassination, Carlson was one of a number of kooky online influencers who suggested that Kirk's views on Israel had been changing and that perhaps for this reason, the state of Israel had something to do with his murder. It was a crazy conspiracy theory, but Carlson was happy to push it. What a way to honor a friend. Then this past week, Carlson proved again what an appalling person he has become. He invited onto his show an avowed Holocaust denier and racist, Nick Fuentes. We don't need to linger here over all the horrifying bile that Fuentes has spewed out to his online followers. It is enough to say that he is so toxic, he could almost have been invented by the radical left as a way to delegitimize the political right in the country. Let me read that for you again, because this is what I've been saying of Fuentes for years, ladies and gentlemen, me personally. It is enough to say that he is so toxic, he could almost have been invented by the radical left as a way to delegitimize the political right in this country. And Douglas is absolutely right here. Spot on. Any normal person would want to keep a million miles away from such a snarling, ugly actor. But if anyone was to sit down and give Fuentes one of the largest audiences of his career, you would have thought that there would be some hostile questions, the kind of relentlessly hostile questioning Carlson can do, such as his recent astoundingly hostile interview with Ted Cruz. But no, Carlson used his hours with Fuentes to simply launder Fuentes' reputation and tried to give him a veneer of reasonableness and respectability. Which brings me to what an appalling friend Tucker Carlson is. Carlson might have used the opportunity to put to Fuentes some of the disgusting things Fuentes had said about the assassinated Kirk. He might have raised the way in which Fuentes and his Groiper followers promised to hound and torment Kirk while he was alive. Carlson might also have asked Fuentes why he had seen fit to use the weeks after Kirk's assassination not only to push the claim that the Jews murdered Kirk, but to also attack Kirk's widow. All of which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, people have posted clips of Fuentes doing this repeatedly. Let's see here. Lost my place. Oh. In a recent online rant, Fuentes said Erica Kirk is a spook. Erica Kirk is a plant. We all know that. That is a fact. That's basically established. She was shopping around for a political husband. God knows where she comes from. She found one in Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is not a good-looking guy. Now, that's a quote from Fuentes. If you're listening to this on the audio podcast, I quoted Nick Fuentes there. Which is, it's funny that Fuentes would call someone a plant and a spook. Because Fuentes was he was the one guy at January 6th who actually told people to go into the Capitol, and I believe to go into Nancy Pelosi's office directly. And yet, when everyone else was getting indicted for January 6th, was Fuentes anywhere near to be found? No, I don't think so. So, as Fuentes likes to say a lot, I'm just asking questions. And in this case, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just asking questions. I'm just positing that it is interesting that the guy who is accusing Erica Kirk of being a plant and of being a spook is also kind of doing, fed or spook-like things himself. But I digress. Continuing on. Back to Douglas's article. Yeah, let me go back. In a recent online rant, Fuentes said Erica Kirk is a spook. Erica is a plant. We all know that. That is a fact. That is basically established. She was shopping around for a political husband. God knows where she comes from. Charlie's not a good-looking guy. Fuentes went on to suggest that Kirk's mourning widow is just acting. Yeah, he said that too. Yeah, so continuing on. It is a heck of a thing to claim to be friends with someone and then bring a guest onto your show who not only hounded your friend in life, but mocks and smears his widows after his death. But then, that's the sort of friend Tucker Carlson is. And it gets worse, because Carlson also claims to be friends with Vice President JD Vance. He has appeared on stage with him and warmed up for him and Trump at rallies. Most of us think friendship includes defending your friends and defending their wives, not Carlson. Here's just some of what Fuentes had to say about Vance and his beautiful and impressive wife, Usha. During one recent rant, Fuentes described JD Vance as, quote, a fat race mixture who's married to a G who named his son Vivek. Yeah. End quote. For anyone not up on the racist cesspool terms, a G turns out to be a racist term used to smear people of South Asian, especially Indian, ancestry. Fuentes went on to claim that Vance was mentored by a quote-unquote Jewish neocon and a gay Fed. And again called Vance a fat gay race traitor who married a G. Elsewhere, he has attacked people for supporting Vance because of the ethnicity of Vance's wife and the fact that the couple have produced children whom Fuentes calls non-white. Fuentes has attacked Vance because his kids are brown, quote unquote. These are vile things to say about anyone. Most of us wouldn't want to be anywhere near someone who said such things about total strangers. But if you had someone in front of you who had said that about your own friend, his wife and children, wouldn't you bring that up? Putting aside for the moment why you would platform such a toxic toad in the first place, why allow him to normalize himself in front of a worldwide audience without even bringing up all the disgusting things he has said about people you claim to know and love? And ladies and gentlemen, that is simply the truth of things. Continuing on. At the end of last week, the president of the Heritage Foundation in Washington tied himself to a completely avoidable mess by issuing a video defending Carlson. Goodness knows why Kevin Roberts chose to do that. It wasn't as though the nation was desperate to hear from him. But I suppose Roberts did it like other people who have stood up for Carlson during his recent downward spiral because he values loyalty and friendship. If that's the case, then Roberts, like Trump, Vance, and others in the Republican movement, should reflect on what a friend they really have in Tucker Carlson, a man who seems intent on normalizing Holocaust deniers and on destroying the MAGA movement within. Some patriot, some conservative, some friend. And I will link this article in the show notes here, ladies and gentlemen, because this is, in my opinion, a pretty damn good article, if I do say so myself. It really is.